Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning everyone.
Waalaikumsalam, Prof.
Alhamdulillah.
Semua sihat
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Ya, Prof.
Yeah. Before we start our class, I would like to inform everyone that you can register for this class, although it is still optional to register for this class. Who can register? Those who enroll in our program starting June 2019. So those of you who enrolled in our PhD program starting from June 2019, December 2019, June 2020, December 2020, and June 2021. You can register for this class, MFQ 8113, Advanced Research Methodology. However, you have a choice to apply for an exemption. Who can apply for an exemption? Whoever took this research methodology class, either at master's or PhD level before, and it must be recent. It must be recent, terkini, and recent is a subjective matter. What's the meaning of recent or latest? We define recent or latest as within 5 years. So if you have taken any research method at master's and PhD level within 5 years, you can apply for exemption to Dr. Toher, or you can write to me. If you ask me, I think it's better if you take this class, because this class, inshallah, will guide you through the process of writing your thesis. And you can ask many questions. And yes, I encourage to ask any questions. As-su'al miftahul ilmi. Jadi kena tanya banyak soalan dalam kelas ni. Okay. So, any question before we proceed? Ada apa-apa soalan sebelum kita sambung kuliah kita ni? Boleh tanya apa-apa soalan saja. Berkenaan tesis, berkenaan pendaftaran.
Saya Prof.
Sila Pak Prayogi.
Ya, jadi saya saya masih menunggu file ya untuk register.
Ya.
Baik.
For international students, you have to register first. And in order to register, you have to get the visa approved.
Okay, thank you, Prof.
You're welcome. But you can join this class. You can just sit in.
Thank you, Prof.
You're welcome.
Excuse me, Prof. Can I ask you
Sure.
something? Yeah.
Sure.
I actually been included in the group of 7013, if not mistaken, yeah. That's
okay.
Dr. Taher, yeah.
That is for master's student.
Student, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, and when I joined the first session, I feel that, you know, because it relates with my dissertation going to be, it's about ethics. So I'm interested to join at the beginning. And then the second, the third, it's already different, yeah, different topic. and when I got the document, I mean the material from Dr. Tahir, I actually, this is very new for me, you know, because it's studying about fikih, the muamalah. So I'm interested also. Am I able to join, or only just, you know, I got the materials? Because I actually interested for the material, because this is very new for me. I don't know anything about muamalah, about ijtihad process, about, you know. So this is very, very new for me. So what about this, you know?
Yes, you are welcome to join. You can ask permission from Dr. Tahir to join the class. You can join the class and just listen without having to do any assignments or taking any exams.
Okay.
So you're welcome to join. Just ask the permission from the lecturer.
Okay. Thank you. Then I will ask, you know, every time.
Yeah, good question. And for PhD students who do not have background in Islamic finance or Sharia, we will have a workshop. We will have a workshop on 4 subjects. Fiqh, mu'amalat, or fiqh for Islamic finance. Number 2, aqidah and ethics in Islamic finance. Number 3, qawaid, usul fiqh wa qawaid fiqhiyah. And number 4 is maqasid Sharia. So we will have it in the form of workshop, where you just attend. The workshop is scheduled for 2 days only. We will let you know when the workshop is. We will announce. So the purpose of the workshop is to give a little exposure to the students who are non-major. Non-major means are not in the field of Islamic finance or Sharia. For those of you who are in the field of Islamic finance or Sharia, you don't have to take the workshop. And the workshop is scheduled, I think about 1 month from now. In the 7th week of the semester. Today we are in the 3rd week of the semester. So the workshop is scheduled on the 7th week, which means 4 more weeks, and we will let everybody know. All right.
Weeks,
And
okay. Look forward to see, you know.
And our colloquium 1, for those of you who have not presented at colloquium 1, inshallah we reschedule. It was supposed to be 29th of July, but we postponed it to 26th of August.
Okay.
Because there are some students who are not ready, some students who are sick, and we feel like 29th of July is too early, because you know you have to make some preparations. So inshallah we postpone it to Thursday, 26th of August.
What time? Usually in the morning or afternoon or what?
We start from morning to evening. So everybody will take turn, right? There are many of us.
Okay.
So we will schedule. So the time we will let you know later. Everybody is given about 15 minutes to present,
Okay.
and there is a Q&A, maybe 40 minutes for each candidate. If
Too long,
in-
yeah.
Yeah, so some maybe in the morning, some maybe in the afternoon.
Afternoon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Each,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. So, any question regarding this?
Saya, Prof.
Yes.
Iwan, Prof. Iwan Fuad. I speak in bahasa, Prof.
Boleh,
Jadi,
boleh.
saya sedang menyusun proposal penelitian, Prof.
Okay.
Ya, Prof. Ini sedang menyusun proposal
Ya,
penelitian. Dan ini kan di Indonesia itu Bank Wakaf ini sempat ramai itu ketika ICMI ingin membuat Bank Wakaf. Kemudian
Ya,
tidak
bagus,
jadi
bagus.
atau tidak. Ya,
Ya,
Prof.
ya,
Kemudian
ya.
tidak berhasil karena ada regulasi yang memang kesulitan kelihatannya pemerintah.
Iya.
Karena akhirnya Presiden memutuskan ada namanya Bank Wakaf Mikro, Prof.
Oke.
Nah, yang jadi saya tanyakan begini, karena di situ ada 3 hal, ada aspek regulasi, ada aspek hukum, kemudian ada juga aspek pertumbuhannya karena sudah berjalan di tingkat mikro, namanya Bank Wakaf Mikro, jadi bukan Bank Wakaf, tapi Bank Wakaf Mikro. Itu yang paling saya mengambil lebih ke pertumbuhannya, Prof. Pertumbuhan Bank Wakaf memang sudah berjalan, atau dilihat dari regulasi yang juga bermasalah begitu, Prof. Mohon pandangannya, Prof. Regulasi artinya memang dia tidak sesuai penuh dengan kebijakan wakaf yang undang-undang itu sendiri, tetapi sudah berjalan atas keinginan Presiden begitu, dan sudah sudah ada pertumbuhannya di Indonesia. Nah, bagaimana pandangan Prof? Terima kasih, Prof.
Ya, jadi tajuknya adalah Bank Wakaf Mikro, ya. Sebab bila kita sebut bank wakaf, banyak cabaran, banyak challenges. Sebab bila ditubuhkan sebagai sebuah bank, of course dia is under the control of the central bank. Yang kita dapati sebelum ini ialah masalah dari segi reimbursement. Bila ditubuhkan sebagai bank wakaf, cabarannya ialah dari segi reimbursement of the fund. Nak dapat dana mungkin tidak begitu bermasalah jika Muslims ada trust kepada bank itu, mungkin tidak begitu bermasalah untuk mengumpul dana wakaf untuk dijadikan sebagai modal, so deposit in the form of wakaf. Tapi masalahnya bila nak reimburse, nak mengeluarkan wang daripada bank itu, sebab bank dia ada prosedur yang ketatnya, tidak semudah begitu untuk mengeluarkan bank. So what happens, macam di Malaysia kita ada skim wakaf Selangor. Kita ada wakaf Windows scheme under CIMB, sebuah bank di Malaysia, di mana dana wakaf melebihi 10 juta ringgit, tetapi reimbursement kurang daripada 1 juta. Jadi banyak dana wakaf itu yang tidak dapat digunakan sepenuhnya. Baik, jadi tajuk itu sangat bagus dan bagi saya boleh dilihat dari beberapa sudut. Mungkin dari sudut syariahnya sudah jelas, ya. Tapi kalau ada isu boleh juga dikaji lagi. Tapi bagi saya dari sudut syariahnya sudah jelas. Bank wakaf sudah dilaksanakan di Turki. Cuma di Turki ada Vakif Bank. Cuma di Turki pun ada beberapa isu lah. Sebab Vakif Bank itu ditubuhkan sebagai conventional bank. Jadi dia contradict dengan syariah. ada beberapa isu lah sebab dia sudah ditubuhkan lama Waqf Bank semenjak zaman Kerajaan Uthmaniyah. Kemudian ya di Indonesia saya fikir bagus dibuat kajian tentang bank wakaf mikro kerana bila dibuat dalam bentuk bank wakaf mikro kita boleh yakni kita boleh membantu mereka yang unbankable ya. Sebab banyak isu macam saya sebut tadi bila kita buat sebagai bank wakaf, challengesnya ialah kita kena patuh kepada the rules and regulations pada central bank. Jadi di Indonesia pun saya fikir sama lah. Jadi boleh dikaji dari segi perkembangannya, itu bagus.
Ya, Prof.
Kemudian mungkin boleh dilihat dari sudut challenges, ya, dari segi how to operate under the operational requirements of the central bank. Sebab bila sebut bank tu dia mesti apa ya? Mesti patuh ya, mesti comply ya. Must comply with the operational requirements and also the Sharia standard lah, must comply. So macam di Malaysia kita ada di Malaysia kita ada SAC ya, Sharia Advisory Council of the Central Bank yang akan mengeluarkan Sharia standard to be followed by all the banks, whether Islamic banks or Waqaf banks. So di Malaysia pun belum ada Waqaf banks. Yang ada ialah Islamic banks that offers Waqaf windows. Yeah. So I think it's a very good topic.
Siap. Terima kasih, Prof.
So
saya lanjutkan nanti, Prof.
Ya, dari segi method mungkin boleh buat mixed method. Maksudnya dari segi perkembangan itu mungkin boleh dilihat data-data ya, dari sudut data, dan mungkin juga boleh digunakan kaedah interview ya, untuk interview tokoh-tokoh berkaitan dengan perkembangan bank wakaf mikro. Dan in terms of operational requirement juga mungkin boleh melihat documentation ya, dari segi apakah operational requirement that the bank must comply with. Dan boleh juga guna kaedah expert interview ya. Mungkin ada tokoh-tokoh di Indonesia yang boleh memberi penjelasan lanjut ya, berkaitan dengan operational requirement. That is how to apply, how to implement the bank, the micro Waqaf bank. How to implement what are the Sharia standards to be followed. Ya, macam di Malaysia sudah ada lah, di Indonesia tidak pasti lah. Kalau ada baguslah. Sebab bila kita nak buat sesuatu bank, dia mesti follow strict rules and regulation and also Sharia standard. Sebab untuk mengelak, untuk memastikan transparency ya, and good governance. That is very important. Transparency and good governance. Okay, very good question. Boleh go ahead, Pak Iwan.
Ya, Prof. Makasih, Prof.
Sama. Okey.
Prof, tanya.
Ya boleh. Sila.
Apa ni yang proposal defense tu borang dia kat mana?
Oh, saya lupa. Saya lupa nak bagi
Zoom-nya.
kat doktor. Lepas kelas ni. Saya akan.
Okey, tak apa.
Okey, jadi kepada pelajar yang akan present proposal defense, perlu isi, boleh isi anytime borang proposal defense berserta chapter 1 to 3 lah. So boleh isi borang dulu, and then chapter 1 to 3 kemudian pun tak apa. The reason is we need to appoint a suitable examiner for proposal defense. Jadi kena bagi borang untuk dilihat tajuk je lah. Bila ada borang tu ada tajuk kan. So kita nak appoint examiner dan the appointment of siapa nak jadi examiner tu bergantung kepada tajuk lah. Jadi boleh lepas ni saya akan bagi, saya lupa. Jadi saya nasihatkan kepada pelajar yang akan present dekat proposal defense, boleh isi borang secepat mungkin. Dan mungkin kita boleh buat dalam bulan Ogos jugalah proposal defense. Setakat ni prosedur dia simple saja. Pelajar akan mengisi borang permohonan atau intent to present at proposal defense, and then kuliah or cipher, kita akan memilih examiner. Kita akan appoint examiner dan kita akan pilih tarikh yang sesuai, dan kita maklum kepada student untuk get ready lah. So for proposal defense, the presentation using PowerPoint is about 20 minutes, and then Q&A lah. There's a Q&A by the examiner. And the date will be informed later. So depends on when the student requests. So for that's how it works. So Dr. Sufyan, Mr. Hamzah, Mr. Said Iradat, Mr. Mio, ada lagi should be ready for proposal defense, insyaAllah.
Yeah, okay. Dr. Sofyan, you have already familiar with the with the proposal defense. You share dong, share dong, share experience dong ke kita.
Belum lagi, baru nak masuk.
This is the second, right?
Yes.
InsyaAllah.
Yeah.
Kita doakan ya, semua berjaya insyaAllah.
Amin. You know, I already trembling my legs, you know.
Why?
My legs has, yeah, of course. I will be meeting with expert, all doctors, professor.
You are an expert also. You are expert in your own field.
Yeah.
Okay, so some of you might use quantitative methods, right? And some might use qualitative methods, and some might use some kind of we call mixed method, where there is a combination of
Questionnaire.
quantitative methods complemented by qualitative methods. So it's quanti and quali. That is called mixed methods. So some students ask, okay, if I use if my approach is quantitative methods, how do we use theory? So the use of theory in quantitative methods. So in quantitative methods, it's very important that we have a strong theory, right? Can you see the slide or not?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, good. Alhamdulillah.
Are you going to send this material also in the group?
I sent already last week. We continue from last week. Is it in
okay.
your?
Okay.
It's in your WhatsApp. So
In the WhatsApp.
in quantitative theory, especially in the causal theory, we have variables. We have independent variables. We have dependent variables. We have mediating variables. And we have moderating variables. Okay, some of you are familiar with this. Some of you are still not familiar. So what is a variable? A variable refers to a characteristic or attribute of an organization or an individual that can be measured or observed. So some people call it variable, some people call it construct. But for us, for the purpose of this class, construct and variables means the same thing. So psychologists call it construct, and we, social scientists, we call it variable. So examples of variables, gender, age, socioeconomic status, attitudes, behaviors, and others. So a variable must be measured, right? So for example, you want to measure attitude, okay? Attitude is called variable. Some people call it construct. So attitude is something that cannot be seen. We cannot see the attitude, you know. It's an abstract concept. How do we measure attitude? It's very difficult, right? But fortunately, there are previous studies who already have measured attitude. Means previous studies have used attitude in their studies. So what we do is we just adapt and adopt what have been done by previous studies. So, okay, so two characteristics distinguish variables, temporal order, and also their measurement or observation. Temporal order means that one variable precedes another in time. Okay, for example, I have two variables. One is compliance behavior of zakat. I want to examine whether Muslims pay zakat or not. So the first variable is compliance behavior, gelagat kepatuhan. And then gelagat kepatuhan means the payment of zakat by the Muslims. Orang Islam membayar zakat atau tidak. So that is called gelagat kepatuhan, compliance behavior. So when Muslims pay zakat, before they pay zakat, they must have intention to pay zakat, right? So intention comes before the compliance behavior, right? Just like when we want to fast, kita nak berpuasa kan? Puasa besok, puasa wajib Ramadan. Puasa besok hari. Sebelum puasa kena niat dahulu. Jadi niatnya ialah sebelah malam. So niat dahulu, kemudian baru berpuasa. Jadi variable pun macam itu juga. Ada variable that comes before the other variable. One variable precedes another variable. Okay, that is called time ordering. And then there are measurement or observation. So how do we measure variables? For example, we want to measure attitude. We want to measure religiosity, keimanan, keagamaan. Bagaimana nak ukur? Seorang tu dia bagus, dia beriman, dia beragama. How do we measure? It's very subjective. However, there are previous studies who have measured. Kita beruntunglah. Jadi saya nasihatkan, I advise all of you, when you choose, for those of you who study, who use quantitative methods, when you want to choose your variable, please choose variables that have been used by previous researchers. Bila kita nak memilih pembeli ubah yang dimasukkan dalam kerangka teori, jadi kita perlu pilih pembeli ubah yang telah digunakan oleh pengkaji sebelumnya. Kalau kita guna pembeli ubah yang baru, you will run into lots of trouble, lots of problems. Okay. Why? Number one, when we choose a variable, we must think of their measurement. How do we measure? Keagamaan, religiosity. How do we measure? Attitude. How we measure attitude? It is something abstract. We cannot measure. Right. The challenge is how to measure. For example, if we want to measure temperature, right? Temperature. So how do we measure? Okay, we have thermometer, right? Thermometer. The thermometer is called the instrument to measure the temperature, just for example. How do we measure religiosity? Right? We have to have the instrument, and the instrument must be valid and reliable. Okay, what is the meaning of valid? Valid means the instrument measures what it is supposed to measure. Valid means the instrument measures what it is supposed to measure. And reliable means the instrument is the right instrument to use. For example, if we have fever, right? If we have fever, how do we measure? Okay, whether we have fever or not? We have to use thermometer. Thermometer is the reliable measure, right? We cannot use the hand. Okay, some people use, for example, can we use the hand to measure the temperature? Okay. Hand is not the valid and reliable instrument to use to measure the temperature. Thermometer is the valid and reliable instrument. So the challenge for us is to measure the variable, right? And we have to choose the instrument that is valid and reliable. So we will talk about it in later chapters. Choosing the right, choosing instruments that are valid and reliable. Okay, so in quantitative theories, in quantitative research, we have independent variables and we have dependent variables. Independent variables are those that cause, influence, or affect the outcomes. Attitude influence intention. Intention influence compliance. So compliance behavior is the dependent variable. Attitude is the independent variables. Okay, so independent variables are those that cause. So in other words, independent variables are the causes, penyebab, or the factors, or some people call it the determinants. So in studies, we want to see what are the factors or what are the determinants. So those are called independent variables. And dependent variables are the ones that we want to study. Dependent variables depends on the independent variables. For example, compliance behavior. Okay, well, compliance behavior of zakat. So what are the determinants of compliance behavior of zakat? In other words, what are the factors that influence whether Muslims pay zakat or not? Attitude, subjective norms, religiosity, perceived behavioral control, and other factors. Those are called the independent variables. The factors or the determinants that influence our dependent variables. It seems like very technical, eh? You can ask a question. I appreciate your question. Boleh tanya dalam bahasa Melayu atau bahasa Inggeris atau bahasa Arab. Ada soalan? We have how many? Then we have mediating variables or intervening variables. Mediating variables stand between the independent and dependent variables. Okay. The mediating variable stands between the independent and dependent variables in the probable causal link. For example, okay, compliance behavior is the dependent variable, and independent variable is attitude. So there is one mediating variable called intention. So intention is between the independent and dependent variable. Let me show you, let me share with you. In the meantime, you can ask questions. I'm trying to find something as an example.
Mediating and moderating. What's the difference, Prof?
What's
intervening or mediating variable, and the other one is moderating variable.
okay?
It's look
Okay.
like same, yeah.
It's not the same. I will show you in a minute. I'm trying
Okay.
to give the diagram.
Hmm.
Jaringan kayaknya ya.
Iya. Apa gambarnya apa
Nggak
meliu-liu?
sempurna ya. Nggak
Iya.
sempurna ya.
I don't know if in Malaysia and KL, probably they can see very good, very clear. Very
Dia
good.
memang tu tak nampak dia punya tu hang.
Oh,
Ya,
I see.
ya,
Dia
kelihatan.
PowerPoint-nya
Kita-
hang kan.
Iya, iya, that's good.
Sama-sama. Saya rasa di rumah Prof tu.
Oh,
Ya.
di mana dia tinggal di Kedah?
Di Unisham, tepi Unisham tu.
Oh,
Lisa.
di Kedah, di Unisa.
Mana Prof? Ada.
Unfortunately, we cannot visit Kedah. We cannot visit, our campus.
Okey.
Saya 2
Actually,
kali ke sana, Bu Endang.
Oh ya.
Seru.
Oh.
Enak di sana itu. Luar biasa. Ada
Yeah.
wisatanya. Nanti kapan lah kita ke sana kan?
We planned it right since last year, but COVID had already stop us to
Ya,
go.
kita doakan lah biar segera mungkin berlalu ya COVID-nya.
Iya.
Insya Allah. Ini baru bicara variabel aja banyak kali ternyata ya.
Iya. Sampai nggak mudek aku, Pak.
Dr. Sufyan, ada tak tesis saya untuk kita share?
Tesis ya?
Ya.
Boleh.
Nanti
Ataupun Prof nak tunjuk apa ni TPB ke? Boleh juga kan?
TPB pun boleh juga. Ya. Boleh.
Saya tunjuk Prof punya ni lah. Tesis boleh.
Pun boleh juga tunjuk theoretical framework kan?
Sekejap. Saya cek.
Sebab kalau kita tunjuk diagram tu boleh faham sikit kot. Pada cakap
Boleh
saja kan?
Sekejap saya mati ya.
Ini hari ini semua orang backgroundnya pakai beach
hidup.
ya. Ya, Pak Iwan in the beach,
Biar segar.
Dr. Sofan in the beach, Pak Prayogi in the beach.
Oh enggak, itu kampus Unisam itu.
Itu tanda udah bosan. Udah bosan kita di rumah.
Saya di office nih.
Sudah 10 hari ini nggak keluar rumah ini.
Iya, udah bosan.
Iya.
Memang sudah bosan. Tapi tak boleh buat apa-apa lah ya.
Iya, betul. Saya getting lost banyak loh, lost weight banyak. Karena nggak bisa apa-apa, very stressful.
Ya.
Kalau di Malaysia itu ada, kalau news yang di sini ada itu, Dr. Sofyan,
Mana?
bendera putih.
Oh iya ke?
IL banyak bendera putih, orang kibarkan bendera putih itu.
Di mana?
Nggak sanggup ya.
Sanggup.
Ada berat.
Prof nak lukis ke macam mana Prof? Nak tunjuk contoh ke macam mana?
Tunjuk contoh yang theoretical framework of the study. Pergi ke page tu.
Sekejap. Contoh sekejap.
Saya tukar laptop ni, jadi cari tak jumpa.
Oh ya ke?
Laptop baru.
Wow.
Boleh share?
Sekejap Mana? Mana dia? Tak
Di close
jumpa
dulu,
pula.
belum di close Prof yang tadi.
Yang punya
Yes.
Prof di close dulu.
Ya, di close dulu, di restart ulang kayaknya.
Saya kena stop sharing. Saya kena stop share. Ya,
Ya betul.
betul. Minta maaf, masalah teknikal. Bila kelas online ni, cari ada cari bahan tak jumpa.
Itu lah.
Especially bila tukar laptop baru.
Sekejap, saya cuba contoh lah apa ni, bukan
Any contoh tak apa? Any
contoh
framework.
ah. Share screen sekejap. Contoh macam ni. Ni okey ya, Pak?
Okay.
Oh ini.
Okay. Boleh enlarge lagi tak?
Sekejap.
Okay.
Nampak?
Okay.
TPB lah, TPB kan. TPB.
Semua orang boleh nampak?
Nampak.
Ya.
Okay, this is called a dependent variable. It's called compliance behavior or the actual behavior. It is the variable that we want to study. For example, compliance behavior of income zakat, right? We want to study whether Muslims pay zakat or not. So actual behavior. So that is called the dependent variable. So dependent variable is the variable that we want to study. In other words, the topic of our thesis. That is the dependent variable. And then we have the independent variables. Here we have 3 independent variables: attitude, subjective norms, and perceived behavioral control. These are the variables that causes or that influence, that impact the dependent variables. So in this case, we have 3 IV. IV1, attitude. IV2, independent variable 2 is subjective norm. And IV3, independent variable 3, perceived behavioral control. So these 3 are called independent variables, the variables that influence our dependent variables. So these are the factors that influence the compliance behavior. Some people call it determinants, some call it the causes, or some call it the factors. So for some people ask, for PhD, how many IV is needed? So that is a good question, and the answer is it depends on what your research objectives are. There is no general rule of how many. So it doesn't mean 5 is better than 4, 6 is better than 5. It doesn't mean that. But the most important thing is the independent variables that we include in our study are the significant variables, right? And it must be based on the previous researchers, meaning we cannot simply put any variable that we like. Cannot. Any variable that we include in our study must be justified based on the previous studies. For example, attitude is included in the study based on Eisen, 1991, and we have to justify why attitude is important. not only based on Eisen, but also based on other researchers. There are many other researchers who have used attitude. So even though attitude is difficult to measure, right? Sikap, attitude, you cannot simply measure. You look at the face. For example, you look at my face. Can you measure my attitude by
No.
looking at my face? Cannot. It is something abstract, right? Fortunately, there are previous researchers who have measured the attitude of the respondents. So what we do is we adapt and adopt what have been used. Makes our life much easier. All right. So in the middle here is called the mediating variable, intention. What is a mediating variable? A mediating variable is a variable that comes in between independent and dependent variables. So is in between. What does it mean? It means the independent variables first influence the mediating variable intention, and then the intention or the mediating variable in turns will influence the dependent variables. So that is called the mediator or the mediating variables. So IV comes first, attitude comes first. Attitude influence the mediator, which is intention. Then the intention will influence the compliance. That is the theory, at least the theory. So for any quantitative research, you must the researchers must come up with this kind of framework. So for PhD, it's not enough just to copy paste the framework that have been used. For PhD, you must come up with some kind of novelty, right? Novelty.
Iya, nanti kedekatan.
Novelty means what you do is novel. Noble means never been done before, meaning you add something as the contribution, add one variable, add another independent variable, or add another moderating variable. Okay. So, and then we have, oh, thank you, Dr. Sofian. I was about to explain the moderating variable. So what is a moderating variable? Moderating variable is a variable that either strengthen or weaken the relationship between two variables. Okay, let me repeat. A moderating variable is a variable that moderates. Moderates mean either weaken or strengthen the relationship between two variables, in this case between intention and behavior. So for example, age, okay, variable age. Age is what we call a categorical moderating variable that moderates. Whether moderates can be either to strengthen, menguatkan hubungan, or weaken, melemahkan hubungan antara dua pembeli ubah. So, gender, for example, gender, male or female. Kalau dia lelaki, dia menguatkan hubungan atau tidak antara niat dan gelagat. Kalau dia perempuan, adakah akan menguatkan lagi hubungan antara niat dan gelagat. So that is called the moderating variable. Okay, moderating variable can be categorical variable like age, gender, and it can be continuous variable, for example, religiosity. So religiosity, for example, we can put as moderating variable here. So we can also test whether, for example, religiosity moderates, that is strengthen the relationship between intention and behavior. So those are the types of variables that we need to know. Number one, dependent variable. Number two, independent variable. Number three, mediator or mediating variable. And number four, moderating variable. Any question? I'm sure there are some questions. PhD students must be very clear, especially if you want to do the quantitative approach. Boleh tanya soalan?
Prof Yusuf?
Oh yeah, Encik Masri, you are here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Regards to the how we draw the mediating and moderating variable in our framework, the moderating variable, can we simply allocate moderating variable anywhere between IV and mediating and dependent variable, or we must allocate the moderating variable as what you show in the lecture here?
Very good question.
Yeah.
Very good question, Encik Masri. Okay, this is just an example. So the question is, where do we put a moderating variables? So in this case, can we simply just put the moderating variable between intention and behavior? Or should the moderating variable moderate relationship, for example, between attitude, subjective norm, perceived behavioral control, and intention? Should it be here or should it be here? Okay, so that is the question. Oh, thank you, Dr. Sofyan, for drawing this beautiful diagram. So, okay, the question is, where do you put moderating variable? Whether it moderates relationship between attitude, subjective norm, perceived behavioral control, and intention, or should we put it here? It moderates relationship between intention and behavior. So the answer is, it depends on the objective of the study. And it must, whether you put it here or you put it here, it must be based on previous studies. It must be justified. And what is the best justification? Some students, from my experience, some students, for example, in the proposal defense, when we ask, why do you put moderating variable here? Why, for example, why religiosity moderates relationship between attitude and intention? And some students, they answer, in my opinion, okay, or I think that is not the answer. Okay, so whether it moderates relationship between independent variables and mediating variable, or it moderates relationship between mediating and dependent variable, must be based on previous studies, must be based on journals, must be based on previous research, or previous PhD thesis. So we call it research also. So must be based on journals, must be based on the previous research. My professor said, don't put the variables like decorating Christmas tree. Okay, don't put the variables just like decorating Christmas trees. Meaning you cannot just, okay, I feel like I want to put it here. And then suddenly you feel like, oh, I want to put it here. Just like decorating Christmas trees, right? So it cannot be like that, okay? Whether you put it here or you put it here must be based on journals. That's why literature review is important, okay? In the literature review, okay, the researcher must review the literature, right? And the literature review helps the researcher to come up with the excellent theoretical framework. Excellent theoretical frameworks means framework which are justified. How do you find a framework that are justified? The most common way is to use the underpinning theory. Okay. Now we come up with one new term. Some of you might have heard, some of you might not have heard. To come up with this theoretical framework, the best way is to have underpinning theory. How many underpinning theory? It can be one, it can be two. So what is the underpinning theory? Underpinning theory is the theory that is used by a researcher as a base, of the theoretical framework of the study. This, for example, this is an example of underpinning theory. It's called the theory of planned behavior. There are many other theories which can be used to underpin or to form as a basis for your theoretical framework. Besides CPB, we have, for example, DIT, diffusion innovation theory. We have TAM, technology acceptance model. We have UTAUT. What is UTAUT? I forgot the. We will cover some of the
Unified theory of acceptance of technology.
Thank you, Mr. Hamza. Unified theory of acceptance.
Acceptance of technology.
Unified theory of
Unified theory of acceptance of technology, and yeah, I think that.
Yeah.
I might forget some letter there, but it's unified theory. It unifies other theories into a single theory.
So UTAUT, TAM, DIT, and TPB, those are among the common theories used to measure the behavior, right? So these are the theories that are familiar to us. TPB, the theory of planned behavior, DIT, diffusion innovation theory, TRA, the theory of reasoned action, UTAUT, and the TAM, TAM, technology acceptance model. So which theory you want to use? I think we will discuss we will discuss later, inshallah. So today we just want to expose the students on the types of variables used in quantitative research. Welcome, Mr. Hamza.
Thank
Okay.
you. I'm very sorry. My alarm, I didn't set it well.
Okay, it's okay.
I just woke it up. I woke up and asked, why isn't my alarm ringing? So looking at the phone, I'm late.
It's okay. Dr. Sofyan, okay, now I want to share.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing.
Saya stop share.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, any other question?
Yes, Prof. Excuse me.
Go ahead.
When I, in the beginning, decided to use, the qualitative, and in the middle or in the process of the research, then there is opportunity, in using quantitative. So do I have to, also explaining this theory into, my, research report, or only just focusing on the previous idea to have the qualitative? Because this is very complicated to me, with the theory of, quantitative. What about,
Okay.
how to
So,
answer my question?
okay. So now you decide to go back to a qualitative method, right?
Yeah, so yeah, because I'm scary to see the theory in the Dr. Sojan, why are you laughing?
Yeah, don't scary. It's not a ghost.
So
really,
this,
it confused me, interventing and moderating.
this thing scares you away. So this this thing
Right.
scares you away. So you decide, no, I don't want to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. I try to avoid,
Okay, so it depends on the objective of the study. We can discuss the objective of the study. Like we mentioned before, the choice of whether to use a qualitative or quantitative depends on the objective of the study, right?
Yeah, right.
So there are advantages and disadvantages of each approach of the study. So so if we recall, the quantitative approach use the deductive reasoning. The deductive reasoning means we start with a theory. Okay, we develop the theory, and then we go out and collect the data, analyze the data, and then we test whether our data support or reject the theory and the hypothesis. So that is the approach of the quantitative research, right? On the other hand, qualitative research, usually we usually use inductive analysis or inductive reasoning. So it's the other way around. First, the researcher try to collect the data and then analyze the qualitative data, right? And then after analyzing the data, the researcher will come up with the theory. So it's usually the other way around. So which one you want to use, quanti or quali. Last time we talked about the combination of the two. Some researcher, they started with a quanti, and then they complement with quali. For example, they start with questionnaire instruments, with questionnaire as instruments where they collect the data, all right, and then they analyze the data, and then they try to test whether the data support or not the theory, and then they complement with expert interviews to provide more insights into the findings, because like we discussed last time, the quantitative approach also has limitations because the number of variables are limited, right? Some researchers, some PhD students use 5 variables, some 6, some 7 variables, and so any number of variables are still limited, right? Because in the real world, you know, there are countless number of variables, so you can support with qualitative. So, Dr. Sofyan, how do we say to those who are afraid of quantitative approach?
Just now it's a very complicated framework, I think. But actually for PhD, you can select only moderating, or you can select either one.
Pakai kolam.
Only one moderating.
Nanti
Maybe
pakai
maybe
kolam.
only moderating. So they're afraid it's not a course or what. It should be okay.
Because you know, when the examination coming, the examinee will asking, what theory do you have for this variable, and then which one independent and dependent, how to interfere each other. So I cannot answer. Leave it to
I think it's easy.
Yes, Mr. Hamza, go ahead.
Yes, I was also like her. Remember, Professor, last year.
Yeah.
I was also like her. I was fearing. I didn't know which goes where. But now it's very easy. I can even track myself. And I look at my theory and my literature review, and I still fit them together.
Yes.
I think let her go with the quantitative and constantly call you or seek for your advice. I think it's easy. She will get along.
Yeah.
I was like even worse because I couldn't even understand how a moderating and a mediating variable work. But now I'm very good. I as far as I can go.
Oh, okay.
Now
So
you are
Yes,
an,
just
now
so
you
you
are
will
an
understand
expert.
them. I'm not.
Now you are an
But
expert already.
now I can. The thing is, if you can track your theoretical framework and your literature review, and they still fit to that is the key, I think. You see?
Yes.
Yeah. If you love to have more mathematics, you can go for quanti. And if you love for more explanation, you can go for the quali. Maybe Ibu Tuti like qualitative, I think.
I think so. I like to make sentences rather than calculating numbers. But actually, you know, I have experience also with quantitative in the, you know, for my client at the time, you know, it's just very simple. You know, I'm doing a survey and then, you know, just collecting numbers and, you know, the variable questionnaire, you know, just repeating, very simple. But I don't mention this is independent, dependent, you know, interventing and so on. Just give them, you know, the numbers, the variable numbers, and then, you know, very simple survey. So I don't know if this, you know, coming, was that proposal defense, the examinee will asking, you know, what kind of theory you use. I probably, you know, cannot answer. But if number just number variable up to the graphic, you know, the tables, that's fine. But the theoretical, I cannot answer. Honestly.
Okay, so
Okay, let's go ahead.
So still it depends on the objective of the study. If you prefer,
Yeah.
if you prefer, then you can use the qualitative research.
Yeah.
So we will discuss the quali later.
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's talk about the use of theory in quantitative research. Okay. Where are we? So in quantitative research, like we mentioned before, of course, the theory is very important. So in quantitative research, some historical precedent exists for viewing a theory as a scientific prediction or explanation for what the research expects to find. According to Kerlinger, 1979, a theory is a set of interrelated constructs or variables, definitions, and propositions that presents a systematic view of phenomena by specifying relations among variables to explain natural phenomena. In this definition, a theory in quantitative research is an interrelated set of constructs or variables formed into propositions or hypotheses. So from the theory, from the theoretical framework of the study, we form the hypothesis, right? And then not only that, we can form the research questions and research objective. So the foundation for quantitative theory is actually the theoretical framework of the study. All right. So if you have a strong theoretical framework of the study, you are set. From the theoretical framework of the study, you can form your hypothesis, you can develop your research question and develop your research objective. So that is the basis, all right? And you can check your literature review also. So in quantitative research, we have to do what we call the alignment, right? So the theoretical framework must align with the research questions, research objective, literature review, and also the hypothesis. Okay. So Leibowitz and Hagedorn added to this definition the idea of theoretical rationale, which they define as specifying how and why the variables and relational statements are interrelated. Why would an independent variable X influence or affect the dependent variable Y? The theory would explain this expectation or prediction. The theory would explain, not we. Okay, we have, when we choose one underpinning theory or two, we have to be able to explain from the perspective of the theory, not from our perspective. For example, I remember in one proposal defense, we asked the PhD student, who use TPB, we ask a question. Please explain attitude according to Eisen. And then he said, oh, to me, attitude is blah, 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 blah. No, not according to you, according to the theory, according to Eisen. So it's very important for PhD students to remember that the theory would explain this expectation or prediction. Don't use your own sentiment, okay? Or to me, oh, no, not to you. It must be based on the theory, right? A discussion about this theory would appear in a section of a proposal on the literature review or separate area called the theory-based or the theoretical rationale or the theoretical perspective. Usually we put in chapter 3.
Reference.
Chapter 3, research methodology. Okay. Investigators combine independent, mediating, and dependent variables into questions based on different forms of measures. These questions provide information about the type of relationships, positive, negative, or unknown, and its magnitude, high or low. So the relationship among variables has what we call the magnitude. Magnitude refers to the direction, positive or negative, and also the strength. Is it a high or low relationship? Is it a strong or a weak relationship? And then from this framework, if you have a good framework, then you can make a good hypothesis. For example, attitude has a significant positive influence on the intention to perform a certain behavior. So this hypothesis comes from the previous theoretical framework. When researchers test hypotheses repeatedly in different settings and with other populations, then the theory emerges. Okay, some people give it a name. For example, we have the theory of planned behavior, diffusion innovation theory, technology acceptance model, UTAUT, theory of reason, action, and other theories. Thus, theory develops as an explanation to advance the knowledge in particular fields. Another aspect of theories is that they vary in their breadth of coverage. Newman reviewed theories at 3 levels: micro, meso, and macro level. Micro theories provide explanations limited to small slices of time, space, or numbers of people. Meso level theories link the micro and macro levels. So meso is in between. These are theories of organizations. And then macro level theories explain larger aggregates such as the whole society or the whole economy. All right, that's the use of theory in quantitative research. Okay, before we go to the use of theory in qualitative research, is there any question? Please ask question. I like question. Boleh tanya dalam bahasa Indonesia atau bahasa Melayu atau bahasa Arab. Hindustan tak boleh.
Salam Prof. Abdul Hadi, Prof.
Sila Abdul Hadi.
Very short question lah. Okay, saya ada refer term research research design versus to theoretical framework. Ada beza tak antara dua term?
Betul, ada beza.
Dari sudut mana?
Although they appear in the same topic, selalunya research design dengan theoretical of framework of the study appears in chapter methodology. So the question is, what's the difference between research design and theoretical framework of the study? Saya tak boleh nak tunjuk. Dr. Sufian ada tak tesis saya?
Sekejap, tengok sekejap.
Okay, so in general, research design is a plan, is a blueprint or a plan of what the researchers want to do in terms of data collection, in terms of data analysis, and so as to answer the research questions or to meet the or to achieve the research objective. Saya terjemah. Research plan ni ialah satu blueprint, satu plan atau satu kerangka yang menunjukkan bagaimana seseorang pengkaji itu collect the data, mengutip atau mengumpul data, menganalisa data dan mendapat dan provide empirical evidence dan memperolehi data empirik untuk menjawab research question, persoalan kajian, dan untuk mencapai objektif kajian. Jadi dalam research design tu dia kena seseorang pengkaji mesti menerangkan pertama data apa yang ingin dikutip, how to collect data, kedua how to analyze data, and three the research findings, so as to answer the research questions and research objective. Data yang nak dikumpulkan itu, okay, dalam research dalam research design, dia mesti align, dia mesti selari dengan research question dan research objective. Jadi dalam research design, pengkaji mesti melihat semula research objective dan research question. Contohnya dia ada 6 research question, dia ada 6 research objective. Bagaimana nak menjawab ke-6 research question? Bagaimana nak mencapai ke-6 research objective? Itulah dia kena design. Okay, dia kena design how to collect data untuk menjawab research question dan research objective. Katalah dia ada 6 research question, 6 research objective, right? The first research question, does attitude influence intention to pay income zakat? Contohlah, so dia melihat semula research question, okay, bagaimana nak menjawab? Does attitude influence intention to pay income zakat? So ada attitude di situ, ada intention di situ. So dia kena terangkan, okay, for example, dia akan menggunakan data dalam research design, dia kena terangkan tentang data collection. So jenis data yang diguna ialah data primer, menggunakan instrumen questionnaire, okay, dan dalam questionnaire itu ada construct atau variable attitude, dan dalam attitude itu, dalam construct attitude itu ada items, we call the items of the instruments. Okay, and then macam mana nak ukur attitude? attitude tu diukur oleh items yang ada dalam instrument, right? And then dia akan terangkan dia punya analisis. Dia nak guna multiple regression, dia nak guna PLS SAM, dia nak guna Amos SAM, any atau apa-apa statistical procedure, dan dia akan come up with the evidence or the findings, dan findings itu akan menjawab research questions and research objectives. Dr. Sofian jumpa tak saya punya thesis? Sekejap lagi saya cari sebab saya guna.
Jumpa.
Boleh share?
Jumpa dah.
Boleh share chapter 3 methodology ni?
Share.
Okey, saya
Jadi
saya kena ni
research design lebih kepada research method lah.
Yang Prof punya tu chapter 4.
Chapter 4 ya, chapter 4.
Chapter 4. Kalau saya tu chapter 3 kan, tapi Prof punya tu chapter 4 kan.
Research chapter 4. Okay, research methodology.
Yang Prof punya je chapter 4. Sebenarnya kita semua chapter 3.
Yang 3 apa tu Sofian?
Sebab yang ni Prof dia rajin. Dia masukkan oleh zakat ni. Dia ada 6 chapter. Orang biasa chapter je. Prof ada 6 chapter.
Dia boleh buat
kita ada 5 je. Chapter pertama introduction. Chapter yang kedua literature review. Yang ketiga adalah research methodology. Keempat result and conclusion. Yang kelima adalah keempat adalah result. Yang kelima adalah conclusion lah. Tapi Prof ni ada 6 dia buat 6 Prof kan.
So maknanya tu Sofian, dari segi research design dengan theoretical framework ni semua dalam chapter 3 lah.
Betul, maksudnya research design ni adalah overview. Kita kata semua kali. Tu research design. Dalam research design tu ada pemilihan data, ada pemilihan framework. Dia duduk dalam tu subchapter semua. Contoh betul, dia macam contoh macam ni macam Prof tulis research methodology, mula dia start dengan research design. Dia cerita apa di research dia. Bahawa research design cakap dia cerita pasal framework, lepas tu cerita pasal hipotesis, lepas tu dia cerita variable dia cerita macam dia collect data, macam dia kira sampling, lepas tu macam mana dia guna data analysis, macam dia guna PLS SAM ke, Amos ke, SPSS ke. Lepas tu dia buat pilot study dalam 100 kan. Lepas tu dia summary balik apa dia buat. Itulah chapter. Kalau kata macam soalan tadi Cik Abdullah ditanya tu design ni, dia macam pembuka kata lah ataupun secara overall apa yang macam cikgu betul lah, dia domain yang besar adalah domain ataupun set yang besar tu research design. Subset dia inilah 4.2, 4.3, 4.4. Dia tambah ni, dia tambah ni chapter 2 ni tambah
Concept and management
sebenarnya kita ada introduction, semua orang kena ada. Dia tambah yang ni.
Ya, itu sebetulnya itu sebetulnya it can be insert in the literature, right?
Ya, benarnya kita kena ambil ni bubuh dalam literature je.
Ya, cukup di situ ya.
Tapi Prof dia kata dia nak dedicate-kan diri dia kepada zakat.
Prof. So now asking to Prof Yusof.
Ada ke dalam ni? Ada ke? Ada ke? Kita je ni.
Dia sudah pergi ya. So don't.
I'm here.
Kita je ni.
Okay. Boleh tanya? The line is not stable.
Okay.
So yang chapter ni Prof, yang Prof punya 6 chapters, biasa kita punya 5. So macam mana Prof?
Nggak usah sampaikan. Biar aja tetap 5.
5 dah cukup. 5 dah cukup.
Iya, cukup. Cukup. 4 juga lebih bagus.
Cuma masa saya menulis thesis ni, supervisor saya minta saya tambah satu lagi bab. Chapter 2, Concepts and Management of Zakat. Jadi yang ni sebab saya mau lulus kan, saya ikutlah supervisor saya minta saya tulis. Jadi sepatutnya 5 saja. Jadi chapter 2 literature review, chapter 3 research methodology, chapter 4 chapter 4 sepatutnya
Apa itu?
Chapter 3 research methodology, chapter 4 research findings, chapter 5
is the reference, right?
No, chapter 5 is the recapitulation, discussion and conclusion.
Okay.
Discussion with what? With who?
Recapitulation means kita ulang semula, kita recapitulate.
Oh, recapitulate, yeah, okay.
Recapitulate, and we discuss the findings and we make the conclusion. Recapitulation is for the purpose of the readers who don't want to go back, right?
Yeah,
So
it's just, you know, like kind of summary, yeah.
Yeah, we recapitulate, for example, the research objectives, and then the findings, and we try to discuss whether our findings answer research objectives or not. To recapitulate is to remind the reader about, usually regarding research questions and research objectives and the findings, and we try to prove that the findings answer the research objectives.
Okay.
So that is the recapitulation. And then we discuss the findings. For example, attitude has significant influence on the intention, right? So we want to discuss. So whether our findings is in line or contradict the previous finding. For example, most previous researchers found that attitude was a significant variable in influencing compliance behavior, right? So this theory also found that attitude is significant, so it supports the previous theory. Okay, so that is a discussion, and also at this stage we have to cite again some of the previous theories that found that attitude was significant. Right? So that is the discussion, and we try to discuss also why it is important in the case of our study. For example, attitude is significant. So what? So what? In the environment of zakat, why this finding is important? Why attitude is significant? We have justified in the context of our study. Because previous studies may use attitude in the case of tax or in the case of in other contexts. But for example, in my study, in the context of zakat. So why the findings, you know, why attitude is, for example, why attitude is significant in the environment of zakat? We try to justify that our findings is rational, or our findings is makes sense in the context of zakat. Okay. Okay. Any other question before we go to the use of theory in qualitative research?
Dr. Sofyan, can you direct to up again? I want to see the chapter number 4. Excuse me, please. What is the chapter for, you know? Yeah. My research finding. Oh yeah, research finding. Okay, thank you very much.
Prof, tanya macam kita buat FIGF kan. So kita kadang kita we mix between kita nak buat improve theory, kita mix between qualitative dengan quantitative. Contohnya masa ini kita kena buat interview dengan expert dulu ke ataupun kita buat questionnaire dulu. Dia mana satu sebab saya ada tengok orang buat quanti dulu lepas tu dia buat interview. Ada orang buat interview lepas tu dia buat quantitative. Mana satu yang sepatut kita buat?
Saya ingat depends on kita punya objektif. Kita punya objektif dulu. Contoh kita punya objektif katalah no. Saya guna contoh. The first objective to examine the influence of attitude on compliance behavior of income zakat. Kalau macam tu, saya rasa lebih baik guna kuanti dulu dalam kes itu sebab dah jelas di situ kita nak nak examine one variable. So kita boleh start dengan kuanti. Kemudian katalah kita nak complement dengan kuali. So mungkin dalam objektif itu kita tambah lagi, for example, to examine, saya pun tak tahu lah, kita recall satu objektif yang kita boleh jawab dengan kuali lah. So kalau objektif kita sekadar macam to examine the influence of X on Y, yang tu dah cukup dengan kuanti kan. Yang kuali ni kita tengoklah. Kalau kita rasa yang kuanti tadi macam tak mencukupi ya, ataupun kita nak contribute lagi kan. Kalau kita nak contribute lagi kepada knowledge, for example, kalau kita punya objektif ialah for example to come up with a theory from Islamic perspective. Contohlah gitu kan. Kalau kata nak come up with a theory tu, yang tu kita kena guna macam kuali lah. Kita guna kuali. Sebab kuali ni kita boleh dapat lebih banyak variable, lebih banyak maklumat. Kalau kuanti, kalau kita guna questionnaire, kalau dalam questionnaire tu ada katalah 8 atau 10 variable. Kita terhad dengan 10 atau 8 variable tu lah. Kalau kuali
sedikit.
Di peringkat awalnya mungkin kita tak banyak maklumat kan. Tapi bila kita pergi interview expert, kita buat observation, kita akan dapat in-depth information. So daripada situ kita boleh dapat macam come up with our new theory. Dia boleh start dengan kuali dulu atau dengan kuanti dulu, tapi bergantung kepada research objektif kita lah. Yang penting kita nak jawab research objektif kita itu dulu. Jadi boleh dua-dua lah. Nak kena Dr. Sufian, kita nak kena lihat objektif kajian kita dululah. Baru kita decide nak guna kuanti dulu ke, kuali dulu ke, mana-mana pun boleh.
Yalah, kalau PhD tu kita clear cut lah, macam kita nak gunakan kuanti, kita tahu teori, kita tahu variable, dan kita check dia punya ni lah kan. Cuma saya tanya based sebab FIGS kan, dia kan suruh kita buat new findings kan. Dia nampak macam pure research yang Prof terangkan dalam lecture sebelum ni lah. Kalau nak improve teori tu, dia kan macam masukkan kualitatif sedikit kot rasanya. Macam ni.
Betul. Kalau nak improve teori, kita kena masuk kualitatif, sebab bila kita guna kualitatif tu, kita akan dapat banyak in-depth information, banyak maklumat baru yang kita boleh analyze, dan kemungkinan hasil daripada analisa tu kita can come up with new variable. Kalau kita can come up with new variable, itu kita panggil teori kita lah, sonok-sonok kan. Kita panggil teori apa-apa kan. Lepas tu pun nama Sofian 2021. Macam tu.
Kita ada orang set seorang pun.
Saya ada buat satu teori, the theory of planned behavior from Islamic perspective. Saya ada buat kan. Tapi saya tengok tak ada orang set pun. Tak apa. Tak apalah. At least saya come up dengan satu teori lah. Teori TPB from Islamic perspective. Yang saya gunakan kaedah interview. Saya tanya academicians, interview academicians, dapat banyak maklumat lah. Dan saya stop dekat 12 sebab jawapan daripada responden yang ke-12 tu dah cukup lah, dah saturated lah. Jadi saya dapat teori sendirilah. Cuma tak famous lah teori tu. Saya tak tahu berapa orang yang cite atau berapa orang yang baca.
Enggak apa-apa, kita promote. No problem, Prof. Tell us and then we will promote you.
Okay, you can cite.
Kena buat TikTok lagi lah macam ni.
Yeah. And then you put your theory in our dissertation. It will be very famous later.
You cite my theory. Okay. The theory of planned behavior. The theory of planned behavior from Islamic perspective. Sebab saya masukkan a new variable, iaitu Islamic religiosity as one of the variable in the TPP.
Yeah, you just write down and then distribute to us, and we will put in our dissertation later. Yeah.
I give you the article.
Like I last week joined Dr. Tahir, session, and I found his theory about ethics. She illustrated ethics as akhlakul karimah as a tree. So he explained it, about the root and then the, what's that? Batang, ranting, daun, fruit. It's like, like a pohon. So I said to him, I will use that to my dissertation to become popular, to make this theory popular.
Okay. Can we break for 10 minutes? I need to have a coffee for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Boleh.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to hear it.
Minum kopi sekejap,
Ya, silahkan.
Mata sudah mengantuk.
Oh no.
Ngikut ngopi.
Ingat ngopi.
Iya Pak. Saya ini juga belum minum kopi.
Saya sudah nih siap tadi dari udah siap. Ini lucu sekali nih kita nih dari Indonesia benar-benarnya awam.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Okay, I'm back.
Sudah segar, Rob?
Alhamdulillah, sudah segar, sudah minum kopi. Jadi saya share tesis saya itu sebagai panduan lah, especially kepada yang buat bentuk kuantitatif. Tesis saya itu berbentuk kuantitatif lah. Jadi kalau nak buat kualitatif, maksudnya kena modify lah tesis itu. Dan saya ada for students under my supervision, we have group supervision, dan kita ada individual consultation yang kita buat secara online.
Yep.
Of course lah. For group supervision, sebulan sekali kita buat. For students under my supervision lah. Kemudian for individual consultation, you can make an appointment and we can Zoom. Okay, when you are free, untuk student yang di bawah saya lah. So please make an appointment bagi student yang di bawah my supervision, buat appointment lah. Kita boleh bincang tentang tajuk masing-masing secara lebih detail. Sebab dalam kelas research ini kita bincang research method secara umum saja, okay, untuk semua orang. Jadi nasihat saya bila kita menulis untuk PhD ini, especially dosen, the lecturers, please write your thesis very well, so that nanti you can share your thesis with your students. Jadi kalau tesis kita bagus, insya-Allah boleh memberi manfaat kepada orang lain lah. Tesis saya bukan perfect ya. Bukan perfect lah. Mungkin ada kesilapan juga di situ kan. Tapi bolehlah, insya-Allah boleh jadikan sedikit sebanyak panduan lah. As a guidance for others. And I'm sure you can do better. You can write better. Ibu Tuti, you can write better thesis.
Oh, mantap.
I hope so.
Yang lebih mantap lagi ya. Jadi saya akan cuba guide lah supaya my students write better thesis than mine.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, there is you and also Dr. Sofyan, Dr. Hadi, and so everyone, will teach me.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Prof, saya ada sikit kemusykilan, Prof.
Boleh, sila.
Okay. Berkenaan dengan teori ni, boleh tak kita set up teori berdasarkan kepada hadis ataupun Al-Quran itu sendiri?
That's what I want to ask.
Boleh tak? Kadang-kadang kita ambil satu hadis tu jadikan sebagai satu teori lah.
Jadi kita soalannya, boleh tak kita masukkan hadis lah dalam theoretical framework kan?
Boleh dong.
Bisa dong.
Itu soalan yang berat karena dari segi konsep knowledge in Islam, al-haqqu min rabbih. Kebenaran itu daripada Tuhan. Maksudnya apa yang ada dalam primary sources of syariah, Al-Quran dan Al-Hadith, Al-Quran, As-Sunnah itu adalah Al-Haq. Bila kata Al-Haq, tidak perlu kepada data. Itu sendiri adalah Al-Haq. Al-Quran, As-Sunnah adalah Al-Haq. Tidak perlu kepada data. Jadi kita nak come up dengan teori, kita nak come up dengan teori untuk proof sama ada teori kita itu mendapat empirical support ataupun tidak. Betul kan? Misalnya attitude, okay, kita nak support, kita collect data, jadi kita analyze data, kita dapat findings, kita nak support sama ada attitude itu mempengaruhi intention or not. Kalau saya lah, saya gunakan primary sources Al-Quran dan As-Sunnah to support the data.
Yeah.
Gunakan Al-Quran dan
As a reference, ya, Prof.
To support the data.
Yeah.
Saya tidak begitu menggalakkan guna Al-Quran atau As-Sunnah di dalam teori. Kerana Al-Quran dan As-Sunnah itu adalah Al-Haq dan tidak memerlukan data untuk kita verify whether it's the truth or not. Kalau it's already the truth, kita tak perlu collect data untuk buktikan. Ya, tapi kita boleh gunakan Al-Quran dan Sunnah untuk support our findings.
Excuse me, Prof. You know, probably for our Quran and Hadith, we can use this as a reference or, you know, use it as a support. To me, it's a kind like, you know, to strengthening or to ensure, you know, what we said in the thesis. You know, because there is a problem. Why, for me, like, you know, there is a problem why, you know, people, you know, do not use this, you know, because, you know, this is a guidance for us. So it has to mention in the thesis, right? Otherwise, it's not clear if we want to strengthening, you know, the rule. Like mine is about ethic. The ethic has to be referred to, you know, what we have in Al-Quran and Hadith. You know, we cannot using a positive law. We have to also use the Sharia, you know, rule. So if it is not mentioned, then, you know, it will be no meaning at all.
Yes, you can use Al-Quran and the Sunnah to support. Yes,
Yeah.
you can. But what I meant was, in general, we have to bear in mind. We have to bear in mind that Al-Quran and Sunnah, Al-Quran and Sunnah are the truth, Al-Haq.
Yeah.
Bear that in mind.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
so kita
cannot be argued.
kena hati-hati ya. Jangan
Yeah.
maksudnya jangan kita dedahkan Al-Quran dan Sunnah itu untuk kita buktikan betul atau tidak.
No.
Itu maksud saya tu.
No.
Itu
Yeah,
bear in mind. Quran dan Sunnah Al-Haq.
Yeah.
Ya, dia tahap paling tinggi. Dan bila kita cannot be proven otherwise.
Argue. Yeah, cannot be argued.
Right. Itu maksud saya tu. Al-Quran dan Sunnah kita boleh guna.
Yeah, cannot be argued.
To support our argument, to support our theory, right?
No.
Tapi jangan dedahkan Al-Quran dengan Sunnah to testing. Don't expose Al-Quran and Sunnah to testing. Because Al-Quran and Sunnah are Al-Haqqu min Rabbi. Itu maksud saya tadi, Cik Radi.
Yeah.
Jelas. Alhamdulillah.
Okey, soalan lain? Bagus soalan. Saya suka soalan. Jadi kita bagi clear kan?
Yeah.
Ustaz Abdul Rahman nak tanya apa boleh?
Ya Prof.
Ya sila Ustaz. Nak komen apa kalau saya salah cakap? Tolong perbetulkan. Kalau saya salah,
bukan salah cakap Prof.
Tolong perbetulkan.
Semua Prof cakap tu betul. Dia tu kan
tidak.
Dengar saja, dapat belum?
Sila perbetulkan kalau saya silap. Saya masih belajar lagi.
Okay.
Okey, kita sambung sikit lagi. The use of theory in qualitative research.
Yeah.
Qualitative research use
Qualitative.
theory. Qualitative research also use theory in their studies in several ways. First, much like in quantity, it is used as a broad explanation for behavior and attitudes. And it may be complete with variables, construct, and hypothesis. So setengah qualitative research juga mereka ada teori mereka sendiri. Misalnya sociologist, dia ada teori tentang behavior. Jadi dia boleh juga menggunakan teori. Kualitatif juga boleh menggunakan teori, tetapi tidak seperti kuanti, di mana teori dalam qualitative research ini lebih umum. Dia contohnya teori tentang behavior. Dia lebih umum Ibu Tuti kalau kuali. Unlike quanti very specific. Ada raja, ada independent, ada dependent. Dalam kuali selalunya kebiasaannya tidak detail. Dia ada suatu penerangan tentang sesuatu fenomena and explanation about a certain phenomena, a certain behavior. Right?
Yeah.
So
and the report, the report of quality is cannot be strongly argue because this is kind like pendapat orang opinion of people. So the opinion people has to be explained, and it's depend how to write the sentences. While for the quantity, it's a figure, it's a number. So the number can be argued. If you put a wrong number, the result, say for example, the graphic doesn't meet with the numbers, it will be seen very clearly. So it needs, a person which is very, clicky, has to be detailed.
Yeah. So as the name suggests, qualitative methods, the theory also in quali. There is no numbers, right? The theory may be a broad explanation or something. Theory in quali is just a broad explanation about something, right? So researchers, although in quali they call it theory. For example, they have theory in social science, theory in sociology, theory in philosophy. Although they call it theory, but it's a very broad explanation. So it's a qualitative nature. So there is no graph. So it's just a broad explanation in words usually.
Prof,
sure, go ahead.
Excuse me. With the explanation, the theory explanation can we put in the literature in the chapter 2, more, I mean, lebih banyak gitu ya, lebih banyak di situ ya, in that section gitu. So so everything has to be referred in the literature, the theory in the literature in the chapter 2. So when we get the research itself and chapter 3 has the result, the finding has to be referred to the theory in the chapter 2. Isn't that right?
Yes, that's right. But depends on the kind of data that you use. For example, like Ibu Tuti said, if you use documentation as the source of data for qualitative, then you have like this dilemma, right? So, for example, you use Quran, you use Hadith, you use journals, you use books. So you have this dilemma. So I use this documentation, or some people call it library research, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Then where do I put? In the literature review or in the findings, right? And so that is the dilemma. So in that case, in that case, some of them might be written in literature review, and some of them might be written in the findings chapter, right? It depends. It depends on the objective, right? So, for example, the objective is, for example, to examine the ethics. From Islamic point of view, for example, right? So, you want to use documentation. So maybe you can refer to the Quran, you know, as mentioned in the Quran, and the Hadith,
and also expert,
and also expert, and also journals, expert opinions, and maybe journals. Then that one you put in the findings, right? And of course, some of them are in the literature review. You have to review previous studies done on ethics.
Detail.
So it depends on how you write. It depends on how you write. It might come from the same source, but you can write that in literature review according to the format of literature review. And then in the findings, you can also use it as the findings, because your findings is based on the documentation, and these are the sources that you use. For example, you might want to use Sunnah, you might want to use you know, expert opinions, and also you might want to use the previous studies on ethics. So the sources can be written as both literature review and in the findings.
Do you have example, or I mean, you know, the example of report on the qualitative? Probably your student, you know, also doing the same qualitative that you can show to us.
Okay, I will try to find. Yes, there are some PhD thesis written using qualitative. Yes.
Yeah, I want to see.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Viva.
Bro, nak tanya.
Yeah.
Macam dalam kualitatif ni kan, dia ada guna interview ataupun konteks ataupun text analysis kan, content analysis kan.
Right, betul.
Yang tu kita nak guna analyze guna apa tu? Macam itu Prof kata Nvivo kan?
Yeah.
Yang itulah kan. Dia check untuk frekuensi ataupun macam mana? Macam tak? Maksudnya daripada interview dengan text analysis tu, maksudnya kita cari keyword yang sama ataupun keyword yang berulang-ulang lah maksudnya kan?
Ya. Lepas tu kita keyword yang sama dan kita masukkan dia dalam bentuk thematik, dalam bentuk bertema, thematik kan. Kita boleh guna kaedah tradisional, dan juga sekarang ada Nvivo lah yang kita boleh guna. Nvivo menggunakan kaedah tree analysis. Dia panggil tree analysis. Analisis pokok. Analisis yang berbentuk pokok. Maksudnya dia ada batang dan dia ada cabang-cabang. Dan cabang-cabang itu adalah berbentuk tema. Jadi disebabkan data itu dalam bentuk word dan bukan dalam bentuk perkataan, Jadi kita akan analyze wording itu. Wording berbagai-bagai. Kalau responden ni dia guna wording yang lain. Kalau responden yang lain dia guna wording yang berbeza. Right? So tugas penyelidik adalah untuk memberikan tema, tema dipanggil thematic analysis. Dan kalau nak guna Nvivo, kita akan masukkan apakah tema-tema yang kita akan gunakan dan apakah wording, perkataan-perkataan yang akan masuk dalam sesuatu tema tersebut. Jadi kelebihan Nvivo ialah dia boleh categorizekan atau classify atau dia boleh grupkan response by respondents ke dalam bentuk tema-tema. Kerana data kualitatif, kalau kita tak analyze, dia akan jadi useless data. Dia jadi useless. Sesuatu data yang tidak di-analyze, dia akan jadi useless. Jadi kaedah yang paling mudah bagi saya sekarang ni guna Nvivo lah. Tapi kalau otai dia tak guna Nvivo, dia guna kaedah highlight menggunakan highlighter lah. Macam ada ni highlighter. Nah, guna highlighter ni lah dia akan highlight warna biru tema ini, warna kuning tema ini. Dan bagi saya agak suka lah. Walau apa kaedah yang digunakan, sama ada kaedah tradisional menggunakan highlighter. Jadi kaedah tradisional menggunakan highlighter ni maksudnya step pertama dia pergi interview kan. Mula dia pergi interview dan dia buat recording kan. Lepas tu dia kena transcribe. Dia kena buat transcribe. Maksudnya dia kena type setiap perkataan yang dituturkan oleh responden tersebut. Kemudian dia kena highlight. Okay, kalau poin ini masuk dalam tema apa. For example, dia ada nak masukkan 7 tema. So dia kena ada 7 jenis color highlighter lah. Okay, tema perkataan ni akan masuk tema mana, perkataan ini akan masuk tema mana. So last kali dia akan analyze in terms of how many themes the information falls into. Berapa tema yang maklumat-maklumat itu kita boleh grupkan. Jadi kuali pun bukan senang juga Ibu Tuti ya. Maksudnya kita akan
Ya, mudah juga.
Tidaklah mudah juga ya. Kerana kita juga perlu analisa. Cuma kita tidak menganalisa dalam bentuk nombor lah. Kita akan dapat tema 1, tema 2, tema 3 untuk menjawab kita punya findings itu. Dia juga ada grouping, ada classification. Kalau nak guna kaedah tradisional bolehlah guna highlighter. Guna highlighter. Last kali kita akan analyze information itu, jadikan dia sebagai maklumat yang boleh kita gunakan. We turn the useless information into useful information. Itu kalau sekarang orang minat guna Nvivo lah. Nvivo ni kena ada workshop lah tentang Nvivo tu.
Please. Kapan itu?
Kelas ini kita tak cover lah sebab dia memakan masa untuk belajar itu.
Ya,
memakan masa dan dia selalunya berbayar. Jadi kalau siapa yang perlu tu nanti boleh bagi nama, kita akan jemput.
Saya mau deh.
Kita akan jemput.
Saya mau.
Saya mau. Okey. Nanti kita buat dalam grup tu kita buat kita susun lah. Siapa yang berminat kita kita akan cadangkan workshop. Sekarang ni semua online kan. Kita boleh buat workshop online, kita boleh jemput pakar dalam bidang Nvivo lah.
Yeah, that's good. Good idea, Prof. So when we already finish the study, all of us becoming the consultant on research, Nvivo and so on. Everybody want to get our services, then contact Dr. Sofyan, contact Pak Hadi, contact you and me. So you have brands in Indonesia. I think that will be very, sellable.
Ya, bagi mereka yang buat research dalam bentuk kuali, bagi saya Nvivo is a powerful tool. It's a powerful tool. So kalau kita faham Nvivo dan macam mana nak guna, kita boleh analyze data-data dalam bentuk selalunya data yang dalam bentuk interview lah. Kalau kita guna expert interview kan, kita mungkin akan analyze for example 5, 6, 10 respondents yang mereka itu menjawab dalam bentuk perbualan kan. Jadi persoalannya bagaimana kita nak menganalisakan jawapan-jawapan yang diberi oleh responden itu. Jadi saya ingat kalau kita expert dengan Nvivo itu, dia sangat helpful lah. InsyaAllah boleh dapat PhD cepat lah. Boleh analyze data dengan cepat lah. Guna Nvivo kan. Kalau kaedah tradisi, pening macam mana ini. Kan. So,
that's true.
Prof, satu lagi Prof.
Ya, sila.
Dari segi macam mana kita nak elak pengulangan dekat pada literature review dengan finding dengan conclusion. Ada tak macam parameter ataupun angle tertentu yang kita kena follow lah untuk elak pengulangan tu sendiri?
Nanti kita akan belajar how to write literature review. Kita untuk write literature review, dia ada beberapa kaedah lah untuk buat literature review. Antara kaedahnya ialah SLR, Systematic Literature Review. Kita akan bagi pendedahan tentang bagaimana untuk buat literature review. So, bila kita faham bagaimana untuk buat literature review, kita kena cari bahan lah. Sama ada jurnal atau buku atau yang lain-lain lagi lah untuk kita buat literature review. So, bila yang pertama untuk buat literature review tu, kita mesti ada bahan dahulu. Mesti ada bahan dahulu. Right. Kemudian saya cadangkan kita buat literature review menggunakan Mendeley. Mendeley is free. Please, siapa yang belum download Mendeley, please download Mendeley in your desktop. Kemudian kita mungkin buat satu sesi ringkas lah. How to use Mendeley in writing literature review. Mendeley ni sebenarnya boleh digunakan bukan saja untuk menulis literature review, tapi menulis the whole thesis. Jadi, please, everybody, use Mendeley. Dan dia free. Okay. Siapa yang belum boleh download Mendeley selepas ni. Saya tak sempat untuk menceritakan. You can go to YouTube, type how to download Mendeley. Dia bagi penerangan yang cukup mantap bagaimana untuk download Mendeley. Go to YouTube, type how to use Mendeley. And there
is a session today. There is a session today. There is a group Mendeley that offer to us by paying 130 ringgit, if not mistaken.
Yes.
They need 15 people to run the session.
It's very good if you can join. Yes.
Ada?
Ibu Tuti boleh share. Ibu Tuti boleh share. Can you share with the rest of us about the workshop? So it's not compulsory, but if you can join, I think it'd be very helpful. So Mendeley murah saja kan? 130 Mendeley pun free. Dia akan tunjuk dengan detail bagaimana untuk menggunakan Mendeley dalam penulisan. Not only on literature review, but also on the rest, on each chapter of your thesis. So kalau 130 tu
130 ya.
Bagi saya berbaloi lah.
Murah ya.
Murah lah, murah. 130 lah. Sebab saya rasa murah lah 130. Saya pergi minimarket semalam membeli stok barang, saya habis 400 lebih. Stok barang untuk 1 minggu kan. Beli penuh untuk basket kan, penuh. Jadi 400 lebih kan. 130 tu murah lah saya fikir. Jadi boleh jual lah Ibu Tuti. Can you share with the rest? Please join lah kalau boleh lah. Please join.
I think mine has already deleted, and there is a message here. Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera, duka cita dimaklumkan kursus ini
Afrika.
Still postponed. Probably we can join, for the new tarikh. Betul ya, Dr. Sofyan ya? You have that message or not?
Tak ada pun. Saya tak ada dalam grup tu pun.
Oke.
Boleh share tak link?
Ya, link.
Ibu Tuti.
Ya boleh ya, saya coba ya. I'm trying.
Sudah ada angin gini, Masya Allah.
Ya.
Okay, kalau siapa tak nak join, dia bukan compulsory. Kalau tak nak join, bagi saya lah. There is another option. Go to YouTube and then type how to use Mendeley. Kemudian dia ada banyak video. There are many videos. And find grad coach. Find grad coach. GRADCOACH. Grad coach. Itu sangat bagus dan dia free saja. Grad coach. Go to YouTube, type how to use Mendeley, and then type grad coach. GRAD, grad, and then coach. And they have very good video, many videos on how to use Mendeley, and it's free. You can watch. Saya tak boleh download dalam Dr. Yusof TV sebab dia melanggar apa benda. Dia tak boleh download video orang lain. So kena cari sendiri dalam YouTube.
Excuse me, Prof.
Sure.
Excuse me, Prof.
Sure.
What is the spelling? Grad?
GRAD, grad. Biar saya type
What
di
is
sini.
the spelling?
Saya type di sini ya. Grad coach. Okay. Boleh nampak sini ya.
Coach. Oh, okay.
Okay. So you go to YouTube, you type how to use Mendeley.
Terima kasih.
How to use Mendeley, and there are many videos, right? To me, the best videos is by grad coach. Under each video, dia ada title dia lah. Dia ada title. So it type grad coach. Maybe I can share here. Macam mana nak share? Okay.
Banyak lah, ambil Sufi.
Oh, kat chatbot. Chatbot tu ada, Prof. Dekat chat tu.
Oh, mana?
Oh, link boleh.
Pakai link
dekat
lah.
WhatsApp group tu boleh juga kan?
You can open Mendeley.com.
Okay.
Just simple, double three. Yeah.
Okay, begini. boleh tak kita create Telegram? Create Telegram MFQ 8113. Di situ saya akan hantar video kat situ. Itu lagi senang.
Boleh.
Siapa
Dia
boleh
besar
tolong?
saiz.
Ya, ada.
Siapa boleh tolong create satu Telegram, masukkan grup ni.
Gaya.
Ini
Klik kau minta lagi ambil kelas ni. Kalau klik putus kelas.
Saya
Boleh, sama.
nanti saya cuba create Telegram.
Nanti Wais datang tak?
Saya nak
Boleh, boleh.
saya create Telegram MFQ 8113 and then sebab saya ada video tu. So saya akan
Boleh
share
Doktor.
video dekat Telegram. Sebab
Bella?
tak boleh share video kat WhatsApp group, dia tak muat.
Ya.
Tak muat.
Saiz kecil je tu.
So itu paling baik.
Boleh.
Kemudian saya ada banyak video tentang how to use
I send the link.
Okay.
Saya ada banyak video
I send the link at the
tentang how to use SPSS pun saya ada. And then how to use PLSM bagi siapa yang berminat lah. How to use SPSS and how to use PLSM. Jadi saya boleh share dalam Telegram banyak video. Okey. Soalan lain lagi?
I send ya the link already.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Pada video ketiga ini, kita akan terfokus untuk membahas tentang bagaimana cara mensitasi dan membuat daftar pustaka dengan mengenai desktop.
Okey, nanti boleh share dalam Telegram lah.
Prof, Telegram ke WhatsApp ah? Telegram tu bukan kita semua orang ada dalam tu ah.
Kita
Create baru ke?
Kita create Telegram group MFQ 8113. Jadi grup kita aje lah yang ada.
Oh.
What's the difference between Telegram and the WhatsApp?
Good
Telegram
question.
besar sikit Ibu Tuti.
Oh, okay, ya.
Kalau WhatsApp kita tak boleh send video.
Ya.
Kalau Telegram
Disegregate
boleh
kan?
send video.
Ya.
Itu bezanya.
So siapa nak create nanti? Nak kami create kan?
Kalau orang lain create, boleh tak masuk ambil nama daripada grup WhatsApp kita tu, kemudian create.
Boleh nanti saya create.
Cik Abdadi tolong create
Boleh, insyaAllah saya buat ni.
nanti saya postkan video-video dalam situ.
Boleh.
Telegram ya, Telegram. Okay.
Nanti everybody boleh tengok lah dalam Telegram tu kita send video.
What's the name? What's the name? What's our group?
MFQ.
MFQ 8113 Advanced Research Methodology.
Nanti I create.
Selamat.
Ataupun nak guna nama yang lebih glamour ke, terpulang lah.
Ya, yang lebih grammar. What's that?
Assalam. Kemana kita? Assalamualaikum. I'm back.
Yeah, okay.
Salam.
Minta maaf masalah internet tadi. Okey.
Guna apa? Line Unify ke apa, Bro?
Tadi saya guna streaming, sekarang saya guna personal hotspot.
Oh, okey. Nampak macam yang ni lagi okey.
Yang ni lagi okey.
Line.
Mungkin apa ni, streaming tu jauh sikit. Dia punya ni atas, saya duduk bawah.
Ni macam lagi clear sikit, waktu dia macam elok sikit lah line dia.
Oh, lain kali saya kena guna personal hotspot lah. Okay. So we try to finish. Okay, we have 4 more slides. Okay, the use of theory in qualitative method, like we said, qualitative methods also use a theory, although the theory is just a broad explanation about a certain phenomena or a certain behavior. So, for example, anthropologists use the theory to study people's culture sharing behavior and attitudes. So this approach is popular in qualitative health science studies. Okay, second, researchers increasingly use a theoretical lens or perspective in qualitative research, which provides an overall lens or perspective for studying gender, classes, or race. So, in short, the qualitative theories, the qualitative research also use theories, although the theories is not like in quantitative theory, but rather in a broad explanation, just explanation in words about certain phenomena of behavior. Okay, now we come to the last topic, the use of theory in mixed method. Just like Dr. Sufyan asked before, so if you use mixed methods, which one we should first use? We should start with quanti first or quali? So the use of theory in mixed methods may include using theory deductively, quantitative theory testing, and validity. So one way to use theory in mixed method is first use the quantitative method. Means we use the deductive theory. Like I mentioned before, deductive reasoning or deductive analysis involves first come up with theory and then go out and collect data, analyze data, get the findings, and testing whether the empirical evidence support or reject our hypothesis. That is called the deductive reasoning. So, Dr. Sufyan, we can start with first using the deductive reasoning. And then another use is using theory inductively as an emerging qualitative theory or pattern. Another method is we can use inductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning means we go and get the data first. For example, we go and interview experts, right, and ask questions based on our what we call interview protocol. We have to have set of questions which must be tested. The validity and reliability of the questions. Just like in quantitative analysis, in qualitative analysis also we have interview protocols. This interview protocols includes all the questions that we want to ask the respondents. Okay, so we go out and ask the questions, right, to respondents, and from the answers, we analyze the data or the information, for example, using Nvivo, and then we come up with themes, what we call themes, tema. So based on the themes, we will be able to come up with what we call a theory. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So in Nvivo, they don't call it variable, they don't call it construct, but they call it themes. T-H-E-M-E. Themes. Themes. T-H-E-M-E. Themes.
T-S-E-M-E. Theme.
Let me write it down here.
Okay.
So in Nvivo, we call it themes.
Okay, themes. Okay.
Themes. So they call it thematic thematic approach.
Mm.
Meaning all the information, okay, after we transcribe the interview, it will be in word, right? It will be in words, and lots of information in words. So when we use Nvivo, we have to construct themes, okay, using a thematic approach. So we as a researcher, we have to form or construct themes. Only researchers knows what the themes are. Okay, for example, ethics. In ethics, there are many themes, right? Ethics related to what?
Yeah.
Right. So researchers will have to construct the themes, and researchers will have to tell Nvivo what your themes are, and then researchers will have to instruct the Nvivo. Okay, if the words, these words belong to these themes, these words belong to these themes, right? So Nvivo will classify the information according to themes. So in quantitative, we call it variables. So in quali, we call it themes.
Yeah.
Okay. So okay. So so the use in theory in mixed methods may include the using theory deductively, and another use is using theory inductively. So either way is okay. We want to start with quanti or quali, depends on the objective of the study. So either way is okay. In addition, there are several unique ways that theory is incorporated into a mixed methods study. So researchers collect, analyze, and integrate quanti and quali data using diverse mixed methods designs that we will discuss in later lectures. Okay, that's the class for today. Inshallah, we will continue next lecture next week. So bagi pelajar yang belum mendaftar MFQ 8113 boleh mula mendaftar. Ya, boleh mendaftar. My recommendation is to take the class. Okay. For those of you who don't want to take the class, okay, you can apply for exemption. There are two conditions for exemption. One is the candidate, the PhD candidate already took the class, either at master's or PhD level. And two, the class taken must be relevant and latest. Relevant is subjective lah. And latest, we define it within 5 years. So if you have taken the subject longer than 5 years, you have to take the subject again. You have to take the subject. So this subject is actually a pass-fail. But inshallah, everybody will pass. There is no A, B, C, no grades. Just pass-fail. Inshallah, everybody will pass. So,
Allah, thank you, Professor. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Shairadat, how are you?
I am fine. I am fine. I was a bit late today, so sorry for that. Apologize.
It's okay. We miss you. We miss your voice.
I miss you too as well, all of you. I don't know. Inshallah, in the next class, inshallah, in the next session, I will be all the time. Inshallah.
What time is that in Pakistan, Mr. Irada?
Yeah, it is a bit early, you know, like 6 to 7, 8. If you start 9:30, right? So it should be 8:30, 6:30 then. A bit early.
Very early in the morning.
Yeah, so that's why anyway, inshallah I will join. The lecture is very precious and it is giving really insight, the understanding of the research core. So this is very important because I'm already in third semester of my PhD, but it is very helping and very handy for our research. So, and the way the professor explaining is really awesome, is very understanding. So,
Dr. Sofyan, explain better.
No, I would like to learn from our professor.
No, it's really good because today you were explaining mixed method, so I was not very clear about it. So today I understood a bit. Yeah, that is good. I was a bit late, so that's why. Inshallah, I will see the lecture later on in detail when you will upload it.
Yes, inshallah I will upload it. So in case you miss the lecture, anyone missed the previous lecture, you can view the lecture in the channel. And now I am a famous celebrity. I have more than 60 subscribers. I have more than 60 already.
Yeah, you were always a famous among your students, you know, but now you're going to be a big celebrity now.
I'm a big celebrity now. I have more than 60 subscribers.
You will have 6 million, inshallah.
Okay. So let me remind you, your first assignment is just like the one that you will present at Colloquium 1. For those of you who have not presented in Colloquium 1, so the materials that you will present in Colloquium 1 is your first assignment. All right? For those of you who already presented at Colloquium 1, just submit whatever you have presented in Colloquium 1. And if you have made the correction, just, for example, Dr. Sufyan made the correction, you just submit the corrected version of the Colloquium 1.
Prof. Okay, Prof.
Okay, for second colloquium is what you will present in proposal defense, right? So those of you who are already preparing for proposal defense, that's your second assignment. Okay. For those of you who will present in colloquium 1, okay, first you submit what you want to present in colloquium 1, right? And then in later lectures, I will guide you on how to write the proposal defense. Okay. Starting next week, we will talk about how to write chapter 1.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me repeat. Your assignment 1 is just what you present in colloquium 1, and your assignment 2 is what you present at proposal defense. And I suggest that the deadline for submitting the colloquium 1, let's write it down. Okay, 26th of August for assignment 1. 26th of August. Deadline for submitting assignment 1. For those of you who has joined the class, you can WhatsApp me to if you need further guidance on how to write your assignment, or you can ask me in the questions. You can ask me questions in next lectures. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you everyone. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Prof.
Terima kasih semua.
Yeah.
For participating and joining this class.
Can I ask one question from Priyangi Suputra, please, Professor, if you allow?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Yeah, Priyangi Suputra, brother, why are you wearing mask? Are you in a public place or you are in your room? I can see there is a building. I think it is munitions. Suputra, can you hear me? I think you cannot hear me.
Mr. Prayogi, Bapak Prayogi, kenapa pakai mask?
Iya, saya masih masa penyembuhan dari ini. Kemarin kan saya COVID.
Mr. Prayogi is in the process of recovery from COVID-19.
Yes, I am.
So may Allah grant him a speedy recovery.
Amin, 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 inshallah. Thank you.
Speedy recovery.
All of you.
Okay, Saputra, you get well soon. Inshallah, you get well soon.
I'm sorry, I can't hear your voice.
Yeah, get well soon. Mudah-mudahan sembuh, cepat segera sembuh. Dia cakap.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Abbas, Mr. Abbas.
Thank you. No problem. No problem.
Okay. May Allah give a speedy recovery for Bapak Prayogi,
Amin, amin.
Ibu Susi dan Ibu Mutiara Hikmah. They are recovering from COVID. And may Allah protect all of us.
Amin, amin.
Amin.
Yes. We make dua and we must follow the SOP.
Yeah.
Follow SOP and make dua and protect ourselves, inshallah. May Allah protect us from this COVID-19.
Inshallah.
Okay. Any other question before we end our class today? Boleh tanya soalan? Last question.
When will you upload, Professor? Like today, it will be uploaded?
Maybe tonight, because I have another class at 2:30. Usually it takes time, sometimes 2 hours to upload.
Okay, okay.
So inshallah tonight I will upload.
That's good. Okay, no problem. Thank you. Jazakallah.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend with your family, Prof.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yeah. See you again next week. Safe, healthy.
Yeah.
Safe, healthy. This is more important.